Migrant domestic workers provide indispensable services to the country where they go, but none of it will be worthy if they are not treated in an ethical or fair manner. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dimagi and I'm joined by Eshan, Sapna and Jetison, and we are from the University of Peradeniya, proudly representing Sri Lanka. Today, our team is looking at how Fair Employment Agency can increase the impact of its services in order to create a new ethical industry standard within the foreign employment industry. So through our strategy, we are looking at how to increase the ethical placement of migrant workers from around 5,000 migrant workers at present to reach a number of around 8,909 ethically placed migrant workers in the future. And also, we are aiming towards a reduction in recruitment debt from a current status of around 6.5 million US dollars to gain a reduction around 13.44 million US dollars in the future through this strategy. So, first of all, let us look at the foreign domestic worker situation in Hong Kong. Currently, there are 400,000 migrant workers in Hong Kong that constitute 10% of the working population in Hong Kong. And also, we can see that around 95% of them are from the Philippines and Indonesia, where 55% arrive from Philippines and 43% arrive from Indonesia. And we can see that they substantially contribute to the economy of Hong Kong, where they have a contribution of around 3.44% to the GDP of Hong Kong, indicating their significant and important role that they play in the development of the economy as well. So when looking at the employment industry scenario in Hong Kong, we can see that there are currently 1,400 employment agencies in Hong Kong, but around 70% of them are illegal, which means that around 980 employment agencies conduct illegal behavior. That means they require a highly excessive placement fees from the migrant workers as form of a debt bondage. And also, when we look at the employer scenario, we can see that 75% of them favor regulated employment agencies. That means they favor migrant workers who are coming through ethical employment agencies, as they do not like to get involved in any legal complications and they do not like to get contradicted with the law as well. And also 70% of them are willing to pay a premium even to obtain the services of a migrant worker who have come through ethical means, because they want to ensure that their migrant workers will not be stressed with a debt burden, and also it would not affect their overall worker efficiency. Then if we consider the issues that are present in the foreign employment industry, we can see that this industry is heavily burdened with forced labor and debt bondage issues, like requiring placement fees from the migrant workers. And this industry is also plagued with human trafficking, modern slavery, abuse and exploitation, and illegal black market practices like unethical issues. But the Fair Employment Agency had successfully addressed most of these issues through their creative business model, in which they do not require any placement fees from their migrant workers, thus reducing the debt bondage, like with a substantial amount in the industry, and also successfully trying to eradicate the unethical employment agencies present in this industry currently. But it is looking forward to scale its operations to have a much bigger impact and systematically replace the unethical agencies with ethical ones throughout this industry. So Eshan will now introduce some strategic options that we can decide to arrive at this impact.
Well, Dimagi, dear ladies and gentlemen, with a given background by Dimagi, before moving into our best strategy, let's analyze the pros and cons of a given three strategic options in the case study for the Fair Employment Agency. The first strategic option is moving into organic growth with new branches in Hong Kong. With this strategy, it could help to change the existing system in the country, which is characterized by debt bondage and modern slavery, with increasing job opportunities for migrant workers and reducing human trafficking. Also, same strategy will help to increase the geographical expansion within the country. However, with this strategy, it may reduce the control over main vision of the business with the over decentralization. Also, it may cause to increase initial capital requirement and future expenses for administrative purposes as well. The second strategic option, can you move? Next slide. The second strategic option given is converting into franchising model. There are also several pros and cons can be identified. It helps to expand the business with reducing financial risk to different geographical destinations. Also, it helps to obtain regular royalty fee with building brand awareness among many. But in contrast, franchise system requires substantial upfront investment. Also, sometimes it might cause to reduce the focus of core values of the major business. On the other hand, as the fair employment agency is operating against the existing systems, it may be quite difficult to find out suitable franchisees. Next. Yeah. The last strategic option given is focusing on expanding business in Philippines. By this unethical employment practices will be reduced, particularly in Philippines, by causing increased geographical expansion further within Philippines. Also, it can provide more skilled and trained labor force for expected jobs. However, on the other hand, this might cause to limit the business focus to single overseas geographical location where there are other potential new overseas destinations also available. In addition to that, there can be some regulatory issues with Philippine government when expanding multiple branches in Philippines too. So with these details, you can clearly see that if we implement only one single strategy given by the case study, it won't be much successful as we are focusing only one direction and there are some non-negligible cons as well. Therefore, we would like to suggest a separate new strategy with utilizing the plus points of given strategy and eliminating and minimizing the possible cons. Our best strategy will be explained by Sapna.
Thank you, Eshan. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to more explain about our best option. So it consists with two main strategies, which is about improving the existing business model of fair employment agency in Hong Kong through a value-based pricing strategy and service differentiation, which is named as digital portfolio. Then our second strategy is establishing a fair training centers and honest job agencies in Indonesia as a market expansion strategy, which is called as Happy Worker. Then our first strategy is improving the existing model of fair employment agency in Hong Kong. So with that, our ultimate objectives are reduce debt bondage in the industry and free of any placement fees, and to increase the revenue through employers, and finally, matching the best workers with best positions. So next, we will look at how we are going to implement our first strategy, which is known as digital portfolio strategy. So under this strategy, we are mainly focusing about four things. Those are pricing, digitalizing, training and aware the staff on ethical and fair practices, and next, follow up on the welfare of migrant workers. Next, we will look at one by one. So before implementation, the pricing model, we are expecting to go for a market analysis in order to identify the significant information regarding employer, employee, and also what are the current trends available in Hong Kong. So afterwards, we are going to implement pricing model component. So under that one, as an agency, we are going to offer two packages for the employers. So the first one is premium price, which is cost about $2,000 per worker, and other one is standard price, which is cost about $1,275 per worker. So however, with the current status, 70% of employers are willing to pay premium price for the employment agencies to recruit the domestic workers began their employment without any debt-free from agency placement fees. So it will be more beneficial to the employers because they are long-term value of hiring a debt-free worker. And also, it's a favorable for employment agencies also. So by the way, a standard price is the market average price that is already existing in the fair employment agencies. So under the pricing, employer can choose under which pricing model they are going to recruit the migrant workers. So when it comes to the premium price, in order to pay a premium price, employer required extra training plus experience at least 2 years in the relevant industry, and also language skills plus age 21 between to 40. So one of the added advantage to the premium price is unmarried status. So because they are free from family obligations. Next, our second strategy is digitalizing. So under the digitalizing, we are going to designing a website. So Through that, we are going to comply the recruitment process of migrant workers with some technological advancements. So at the initial stage, Fair Employment Agency is designing a website. That website includes profile of migrant workers and job categories they are belongs to, because now Fair Employment Agencies are expecting to recruit the workers from different industry, from construction, hospitality, and etc. So after selecting the job category, then agency offer 2 pricing packages, so employer can choose their package as they wish. Then with that, our ultimate objective is to matching the best migrant worker with the best position. So our next implementation under our first strategy, which is about training and aware the staff on ethical and fair practices. So by the way, Fair Employment Agencies already has a unique nature of the business model, which more facilitating a purpose-driven motive among their staff. So thus, in order to increase their awareness on sense of ethical and fair responsibilities and duties, we can implement this. So ultimately, it will lead the organization to increase the customer satisfaction as a result of the satisfied staff. Then next step is to follow up on the welfare of migrant workers. So under this one, there is a need with the Fair Employment Agencies to ensure the agency's legal and fiduciary obligations while attention on the employer's needs, so which could often be emotionally uphill. So thus, in order to reduce unexpected flare-up during the employment period, we can do some follow-up sessions to safeguard migrant workers' welfare. So next, our main strategy is Happy Worker Strategy. So under that one, we are going to establish in a fair training center and honest job in Indonesia. So with that, our ultimate objective to reduce the debt bondage and human trafficking and modern slavery, and also other than that, to disrupt the sending side employment agency industry. So under this strategy's implementation action plan, we identified with 4 steps. So those are take approval from the Indonesian government is the first step. So however, in July 2020, in Indonesian government announced an end to all placement fees in January 2021. Therefore, while taking the government approval license, we can enter to the Indonesian market. We can explain the increment of the value of migrant workers and about the increment of the job opportunities and to reduce reduction of the unemployment rate, like overall impact to the government, in order to get the approval from that. So our next strategy is to establish in fair training centers and honest job training, honest job in Indonesia. So which already practicing by fair employment agencies in Philippines. So those practices align with increment of the awareness, ethical hiring practices, and also the employer's pays principle. Next, our step is to advertising and marketing. So in order to attract more migrant workers while increasing or the maximizing their value on ethical practices, we are going to conduct advertising and marketing. Then our next step is to recruit the migrant workers from Indonesia. So in order to, who are looking for job opportunities in overseas, so those type of migrant workers we can recruit through advertising and marketing. So however, with this strategy, our ultimate plan is to connect the recruited workers profile through the database of the website of Fair Employment Agencies in Hong Kong. So now I would like to hand over the presentation to my colleague, Chetusan, to conduct how we are going to implement those strategies and what are the implementation issues aligned with our strategies.
Thank you, Sapna. Okay, now let's look at the implementation time frame. Here we assume the time interval between the T0 and T1 as 12 months. So under digital portfolio, the first action plan is market analysis. It should be start immediately from T0 to the next 6 months, and it should be followed by designing and launching the website. The training program should be done in the first quarter of each year. And our next strategy is Happy Worker. Under that, government approval from Indonesian government and legal procedures will take whole 1 year. And from that, establishment of training centers and honest employment agencies should carried out by the fair employment agencies in Indonesia. Now, the advertising and marketing activities should be carried out while establishment of training centers and throughout the future years. And after that, it should be followed by recruitment, selection, and training of Indonesian migrants. Now, let's look at the evaluation of benefit and cost of these two strategies. Currently, now there are placement of 5,000 migrants within Philippines. With the expansion to Indonesia, it is expected to increase up to 8,909 migrants from Philippines and Indonesia. With the introduction of this premium pricing, currently the standard price is $1,275 and premium price is expected to be $2,000. Hence, with the acceptance of 60% of premium price, there will be an overall increase in the revenue of 34% within the next 5 years. Now let's see the other side of this, that is the reduction of unethical agency and cost served on recruitment of depth. Currently, there are 980 agencies involved in unethical practices, and recruitment depth is approximately $89.7 million. So, by increasing the number of migrants to 8,909, it is expected that the recruitment depth will be reduced by $13.4 million, where these strategies will eradicate 147 illegal agencies, which represent 15% of overall reduction. Now, let's see the cost analysis of these two strategies. If you see the cost analysis, the major share of 40% is attributable for the establishment of training centers, and 25% is allocated for advertising and marketing cost. Further, the web designing, training cost, and administration cost are 10% each and totally 30% of the overall cost. Finally, the maintenance cost takes 5% from the overall cost. With that, let's move to see the implementation issues of this digital portfolio and happy worker. The first implementation issue is technical failure. Technical failures may be there when designing and while operating the websites. For that, we are having IT specialist for the proper maintenance of the website and the proper operating of it. The second implementation issue is restriction from Indonesian government. Initially, there may be some restrictions for establishing foreign agencies in Indonesia. For that, getting approval by signing agreements with the government and discussing with the positive impacts of establishing an agency will grant us the permission to do so. The third implementation issue is the lack of knowledge. It is all about the existing website and regarding how to operate it for the employers. The remedy will be awareness program. Through conducting awareness program, we can increase the knowledge of the employers to get connect with agencies through its website. So with that, my dear ladies and gentlemen, the first important question is how to increase the impact of fair employment agency. For that, we have come up with a suitable solution, that is digital portfolio strategy and happy worker strategy. The overall impact of these strategies are increase in placement of migrant workers, and it will reduce the recruitment depth, and it will be reducing the illegal employment agencies. Hence, the fair employment agencies should implement digital portfolio strategy and happy worker strategy for the ethical and fair treatment of the migrants. Thank you.
Is this the end? Okay, so thank you for your presentation. It is now time for the Q&A session. Let's hear the first question. Thank you.
So I'll start off. When you recommended a digital strategy, did you consider existing tools that the Fair Employment Agency already uses? Because in the case study, there's a reference to Salesforce being used and reference to Qualtrics being used. So did you consider that, and whether that already has some elements of what you're trying to recommend?
Yes, actually, agencies currently involved to incorporate more and more technological advances to their programs. So currently they are conducting surveys as well as some implementations with regards to technology, and also they have a app base, but we are implementing a website where all services could be done at one place. So even that website could be then connected to the employment agencies that are overseas, and they could have a common database to operate all these systems. So we recognize that these agencies want to move forward with technology as well when compared to the other agencies which are mostly paper based. So we think that this digital platform will also enable them to move forward through these technological advancements that they want to do in this industry.
Okay, thank you.
You've obviously come up with two strategies, and what other strategies did you consider, and why did you discount them?
So already we considered the three strategic options that were given through the case study, but we did not consider them because we considered them to be mainly unidirectional, and they had considerable cons that we could not ignore. But we thought of a better strategy where we could utilize the advantages that we could get from those strategies that were mentioned, as well as having providing additional values through our strategy. So we thought that we believe that our strategy would be a better strategy when compared to the other strategies that were already suggested.
So one of the strategies would be to expand the services you provide in the Philippines, right? Because you already have a base there, so you already have the right level of approvals, but there's very little market penetration. So did you look at expanding in the Philippines further? And secondly, did you also look at other revenue streams, and maybe contract workers, cleaning, etc., or did you only focus on the domestic worker?
When answering the first question, we considered the expansion in Philippines as well. But we thought that since we already have an agency in Philippines, we would be only considering about that 55% that are currently coming from Philippines, and we will be ignoring another greater percentage of 43% that are coming from Indonesia. So already, as there is an established Philippines agency in Philippines, so we would only be catering to that existing market only. And also in our strategy, we do not consider just about domestic workers, and we try to expand the workers that they can go to other industries as well, like the hospitality, agriculture sector, manufacturing, and other industries where we would be getting more migrant workers to facilitate all these industries as well.
Thank you.
Regarding the second strategy, expanding to Indonesia, have you studied the possible market penetration rate in Indonesia? Besides, the government like approval, any other kind of potential risks that you can see to that strategy? Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, we consider that also because already that Indonesia has banned that unethical employment agencies, and we think that if we convince that we are that fair employment agencies, ethical agency, and they are following that ethical guidelines, we think that the Indonesian government will agree with us because by this the welfare of their citizens also increase, and we think that our strategy will be agree with their existing rules and regulations also.
And also, I would like to add some more points to my colleague answer. So now already they under the case study that they have mentioned, Indonesian government also seeking to ban the placement fees, which are already aligned with the employment agencies. So with that, we believe we can get the government approval in order to expand our business in Indonesia. Thank you.
I mean, what would be the competitive advantage of the company when they expand into Indonesia?
So when we expand it to Indonesia, we'll be competing with other employment agencies that are already in Indonesia, and they would be requiring a placement fee from their migrant workers. But our agency, are not requiring any placement fee from the migrant workers. So we think, and as they are looking at the welfare of the migrant workers as well, we think we could be at a better position when compared to the other agencies who are conducting these unethical practices in Indonesia.
Can you bring back up the slide on the financials? I'd just be interested to look at the cost, if you don't mind. So I understand the revenue upside on the financial projections, but I'm interested in the cost and what year does it break even? Yeah, so can someone walk me through on the graph on the left-hand side?
This one.
On the left, sorry, that's on
Okay.
the right. Yeah, on that side, yeah, thanks.
It's all about the pricing strategy of our plan. That is, they are already having the market average cost of $1,275 with the increasing in the value the value of the service. We are providing the service for $2,000. So also they've mentioned that the 70% of the employers are willing to accept this premium price. So we assume that if we got at least 60% acceptance, with that we are expecting 30% of increase in revenue from the year 1 to year 5. And if we see this reduction, now there is 980 these agencies who are involved in unethical practices, where they are contributing to 89.7 this recruitment debt. So with the increase in migrants from 5,000 to 8,909 by expanding our business to Indonesia, we have reduces the 15%. We assume that we can't reduce all recruitment debt, but with this strategy we are assuming that we will be covering the 15% of the overall reduction of this recruitment debt, and by reducing these unethical practices, we are serving $13.4 million US, and so that we are reducing the overall debt incurred in the recruitment.
Perfect. And then on the graph on the right-hand side where you have those percentages, what's the overall cost? What's the dollar cost? So the revenue is easy, right? So you look at the current revenue in dollar terms and you add 34% to that. So you can see what the value is from a revenue increase. But what is the cost, the cost in dollar numbers on the right-hand side?
We did not actually calculate $18 terms, but we have just showed a comparison, like the constituent of the cost as percentages. So,
but is this going to break even?
Yes. So in the if you go to the implementation time frame, when we introduce our premium pricing, so we could obtain revenue from it by the end of the first year, so the current year, and afterwards we are going to establish the training centers and everything. So we hope that the revenue that we get through the premium pricing could be able to recover the costs that we incur afterwards.
So you're saying the break-even point is year 1. You'll make a profit on this investment after year 1.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a related question, because you built a website and then you're going to get people to start using it, that's going to form the basis of people being, or you being able to charge a premium price because you've got an access to all of this. Have you factored in the time taken for people to be onboarded? I know you've factored in marketing cost, but just that whole journey of starting marketing, getting people to be familiar with what you're trying to sell, onboarding, and then revenue translation. And that's kind of connected with Kieran's question saying, would you break even in year one?
I think we can start getting profits through the introduction, then to attract more and more people to obtain these services. So we would be incurring profits after the introduction of this website. So
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? We have still got 3.5 minutes left.
No, none from me. Thank you.
Any other questions from other judges?
So one of the areas that they talked about at the start was also to increase so obviously it was on the debt reduction side, but also from an ethical perspective. How do you think the competitors will react if you implemented this strategy?
the competitors, when we implement this strategy, we are favoring more ethical practices. So we think that competitors will also try to follow these ethical practices as well. That is actually what we also want in order to transform this industry, for the unethical agencies to carry out these ethical practices as well, because most people will now favor this strategy because from the employer side also they are benefited, and from the worker side also they are benefited, as they do not require any placement fees. So the market will change according to accept these ethical practices. So the competitors will also follow such ethical practices, which is actually what we want in changing this industry.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
No, thank you. No further comments.
No? In that case, we will end the Q&A session. So thank you all. The judges will now stay in the room to deliberate. Their team will place you in the waiting room and bring you back in for the feedback session in 8 minutes time. Everyone else, please kindly leave the room, and we will see you later for the result session.